Welcome to part 3 of the Ancient Civilizations Iceberg, where we explore civilizations and societies from the well known to the extremely obscure, from how they rose to how they fell. In this episode, we'll be discussing civilizations such as Mycenaean Greeks, the Phoenicians, the Akkadians, and more. Also, remember to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell and share this video with your friends and family. The Mycenaean civilization, flourishing between approximately 1600 BC and 1100 BC, represents the first advanced Greek society on the mainland. The origins of the Mycenaean civilization are rooted in the migration of Indo-European peoples into the Greek peninsula around 2000 BC. These early Greeks assimilated with existing Neolithic populations, leading to the emergence of the Helladic culture. By 1600 BC, distinctive features of the Mycenaean civilization began to crystallize, marked by advances in metallurgy, pottery, and the establishment of complex socio-political structures. The rise of the Mycenaeans coincided with increased contact with the Minoan civilization of Crete. Through trade and possibly conquest, the Mycenaeans absorbed aspects of Minoan culture, including art and religious practices. However, they developed their own identity, characterized by a warrior ethos and a focus on fortifications, military prowess, and individual heroism in battle. At the heart of Mycenaean society were the fortified palace complexes at sites like Mycenae, Pylos, and Thebes. These palatial centers served as administrative and economic hubs, overseeing agriculture, trade, and production. The palaces featured megarons, large central halls with a hearth that served as throne rooms and places for ceremonial functions. Art and architecture flourished under the Mycenaeans, contrary to what one might expect from a warrior society. They were skilled in various crafts, including pottery, fresco painting, and metalwork. The famous Mask of Agamemnon, a gold funerary mask discovered by Heinrich Schliemann at Mycenae, exemplifies their expertise in goldsmithing. Mycenaean pottery, characterized by elegant shapes and decorative motifs, was widely traded and highly desired throughout the Mediterranean. The development of linear B script was also a significant achievement for the society and for subsequent Greek societies. Deciphered in 1952 by Michael Ventris, Linear B is an early form of Greek used primarily for administrative purposes. The tablets reveal an early bureaucratic society with detailed records of goods, personnel, and religious offerings, underscoring the complexity of Mycenaean administrative systems. Social structure was extremely hierarchical, as one may expect from a warrior society. The king, known in Mycenaean Greek as the Wanax, held supreme authority both politically and religiously. Another societal role, known as the Lauagetas, possibly acted as a leading military commander for the king. Local governors appear to have been placed in charge of regions by the king. Below the elite were free citizens, artisans, farmers, and laborers, with bonded laborers being at the bottom of the societal pyramid. The Mycenaean economy was fairly complex and dynamic, especially for its time. Agriculture formed the backbone, with crops like wheat, barley, olives, and grapes cultivated extensively. Animal husbandry was important, with sheep and goats providing wool and meat. Notably, craftsmanship, as discussed, was highly developed, and luxury goods were produced. For instance, the Mycenaean Greeks are noted to have manufactured not only combat-ready weaponry, but ornamental weaponry as well, indicating a wealthy society with a taste for opulence. Notably, the Mycenaean trade networks extended across the Mediterranean and potentially beyond. Mycenaean pottery has been found in Egypt, Italy, Anatolia, and the Levant, evidencing extensive maritime trade. Religion was integral to Mycenaean life, and will be quite familiar to anyone who has a passing familiarity with Hellenic religion generally. The pantheon included deities that would later feature prominently in classical Greek mythology. Names like Zeus, Poseidon, and Dionysus appear in Linear B tablets, suggesting continuity in religious beliefs. Religious practices involved offerings and sacrifices to the gods, with shrines and sanctuaries located within palaces and the surrounding countryside. Notably, the role of the priesthood is not entirely clear in this society, but given the significant amount of religious art produced, scholars theorize they likely held significant influence. The Mycenaeans were characterized by their militaristic nature, and fortifications were a hallmark of their architecture. Citadels were protected by massive walls constructed with large, unworked stones, known as Cyclopean masonry, due to the later Greeks' belief that only giants could have moved such blocks. Military equipment included bronze swords, spears, shields, and armor. The Dendra panoply, a set of full-body bronze armor discovered in Dendra, Greece of all places, reflects advanced metallurgical skills. Chariots played a role in warfare, as depicted in frescoes and mentioned in Linear B tablets. Warfare and conquest are theorized to have been instrumental in expanding Mycenaean influence. Some scholars suggest involvement in conflicts like the legendary Trojan War, immortalized by Homer, although the historical accuracy of these accounts remains hotly contested. Around 1200 BC, the Mycenaean civilization began to decline. Palaces were destroyed or abandoned, trade networks collapsed, and writing largely ceased. Several theories attempt to explain this downfall, which is now well known as the Late Bronze Age collapse. Some suggestions by scholars include natural disasters, invasions by the Sea Peoples, and civil strife. Most scholars now agree that any one precise cause is not likely the case, and it's likely that this was caused by a combination of factors. The result was a period known as the Greek Dark Ages, lasting until around 800 BC, during which population declined and many aspects of Mycenaean culture were lost. Despite the collapse, the Mycenaeans left a lasting legacy that strongly impacted subsequent Greek culture. Oral traditions preserve the memory of Mycenaean heroes and events, eventually becoming the epic tales of Homer. The Iliad and the Odyssey reflect a world that, while composed centuries later, calls back to Mycenaean times. Also, it's important to remember that architectural and technological advancements persisted to some degree and re-emerged after the Greek Dark Ages. Metallurgical techniques and artistic styles were later rediscovered and adopted by subsequent Greek cultures. Further, the warrior ethos that focused on heroic displays of power associated with this culture was later picked up by other Greek cultures such as the Spartans. Given the level of influence on classical Greece and the level of influence classical Greece had upon the world subsequently, the influence of Mycenaean civilization can't be understated. The Akkadian Empire, which flourished from 2334 to 2154 BC, is one of the most significant early civilizations in human history. It is often credited as the world's first empire, and is always credited as the first Mesopotamian empire, and its rise marked a pivotal moment in the ancient Near East. The Akkadian Empire was founded by Sargon of Akkad, a figure of legend, but whose historical impact is undisputed. Sargon established Akkad as a central hub for his empire, located along the Euphrates River. Unlike previous rulers, Sargon did not simply expand his own city-state. He forged a new model of empire building by conquering cities, uniting a vast territory under his centralized authority. His military campaigns extended as far as the Mediterranean and into modern-day Iran, effectively laying the foundation for an empire that controlled trade routes and political alliances across Mesopotamia. Sargon's successors, notably his grandson Naram-Sin, continued his expansionist policies and maintained the empire's dominance. Naram Sin, in particular, declared himself a god, elevating his status beyond that of a mere king, and ruled with the title King of the Four Corners of the Universe. This title reflected not only his control over a large geographical area, but also his ideological dominance. Notably, this title would be claimed by numerous Mesopotamian and Persian rulers over the next 2 millennia. The Akkadians' competitive advantage, so to speak, was that they were remarkable administrators. To maintain control over such a vast empire, Sargon and his successors developed an advanced bureaucratic system. The empire was divided into provinces, each governed by officials loyal to the king. These officials, many of whom were Akkadians, were responsible for maintaining order, collecting taxes, and enforcing laws. The Akkadian Empire also standardized weights and measures, an essential reform that facilitated trade and commerce across diverse regions. One of the most enduring legacies of the Akkadian Empire was its postal system. This was an early form of organized communication, where clay tablets were sealed and delivered across the empire. This system not only helped maintain governance, but also allowed for the dissemination of legal decrees, trade agreements, and diplomatic correspondence. In terms of culture, the Akkadian Empire fostered a unique fusion of Sumerian and Akkadian traditions. Sumerian was retained as the language of religion and literature, while Akkadian became the language of administration and commerce. The Akkadian language and cuneiform script became the dominant tools of communication in the region, influencing later civilizations, including the Babylonians and Assyrians. The Akkadians also contributed substantially to the development of early literature. Enheduanna, Sargon's daughter, is widely recognized as the world's first known author, having composed hymns to the goddess Inanna. The Akkadian Empire is often remembered for its military prowess. Sargon and his successors, particularly Naram Sin, led numerous military campaigns, expanding the empire's boundaries and solidifying its dominance. Naram Sin's famous victory stele, which depicts him triumphing over the Lullubi tribe, is a powerful symbol of Akkadian military strength. These campaigns not only brought wealth and resources to Akkad, but also established the empire as a formidable power that influenced neighboring regions from Anatolia to the Persian Gulf. The empire's military innovations also had a lasting impact. Sargon is credited with organizing a standing army, which included specialized units such as archers and spearmen. This level of military organization was unprecedented at the time, and allowed the Akkadians to effectively control a vast and diverse territory. Despite its remarkable achievements, the Akkadian Empire eventually fell into decline for reasons which are generally considered to be poorly understood. Environmental factors, such as droughts and changes in agricultural productivity, likely played a significant role. The empire's vast territory also made it difficult to manage, leading to internal revolts and external invasions, particularly from various nomadic groups. These pressures culminated in the fall of Akkad around 2154 BC. The legacy of the Akkadian Empire, however, lived on. Its administrative practices, military innovations, and cultural achievements were adopted by later Mesopotamian civilizations. The Akkadian language continued to be used for centuries as a diplomatic language, and its literature, particularly the Epic of Gilgamesh, influenced cultures far beyond Mesopotamia. Göbekli Tepe, located in southeastern Turkey, has been hailed as the world's oldest known temple complex and the oldest known human building. Dating back over 11,000 years, this site was constructed by early Neolithic humans, during a period when farming and settled life were still in their infancy. The site consists of large circular structures known as enclosures, each containing massive T-shaped stone pillars. These pillars, some towering over 5 meters high, are adorned with intricate carvings of animals like snakes, vultures, wild boars, and foxes, often depicted in relief. These carvings are believed to have had symbolic significance, potentially relating to religious or spiritual practices. Interestingly, no evidence of permanent habitation has been found at Göbekli Tepe, suggesting that it was a ceremonial site for semi-nomadic hunter-gatherers rather than a village or town. One of the most remarkable aspects of Göbekli Tepe is the advanced engineering and organization required to build it. The people who constructed this site did so without metal tools or domesticated animals, raising questions about how they managed to transport and erect the enormous stone pillars. This has led archaeologists to hypothesize that Göbekli Tepe may have been a gathering place where different groups of people came together for religious rituals or social events. Excavations at Göbekli Tepe have revealed three main levels of construction. The oldest, known as Level 3, features the most complex and monumental architecture, including large stone circles with richly carved pillars. Later levels, particularly Level 2, show a shift towards more rectangular enclosures, indicating a possible evolution in architectural style over time. Interestingly, the oldest level appears to be the most advanced, raising questions about how and why construction techniques seem to have regressed in later phases. The carvings on the pillars are not just decorative, but are believed to be deeply symbolic, possibly representing totems or spiritual beliefs. For example, Enclosure A is dominated by carvings of snakes, which may have had mythological or religious importance in the region. Similarly, Enclosure C features depictions of wild boars, while Enclosure B is known for its carvings of foxes. These animal motifs are repeated throughout the site and seem to reflect a sophisticated symbolic system consistent with early spiritual or religious beliefs. One of the most intriguing mysteries surrounding the site is its intentional burial. Around 8000 BC, the entire site was deliberately covered with dirt, preserving it for millennia. The reasons for this burial remain unclear, though some researchers speculate it could have been part of a ritual or a way to mark the end of its use. Others suggest it may have been an effort to preserve the sanctity of the site, or simply a practical measure as the site fell out of use. New discoveries continue to emerge from Göbekli Tepe. Göbekli Tepe has upended previous theories about the development of human civilization. Before its discovery, it was widely believed that large, complex societies could only develop after the advent of agriculture. However, Göbekli Tepe demonstrates that even hunter-gatherers were capable of organizing large-scale construction projects and engaging in complex social and religious activities. Some scholars now believe that sites like Göbekli Tepe may have played a role in the eventual transition to agriculture. These scholars suggest the need to feed and organize large groups of people in the area could have led to the increased domestication of plants and animals. The civilization responsible for building Göbekli Tepe remains largely mysterious, as no written records or clear evidence of a unified political structure have been found. The builders of Göbekli Tepe are theorized to have lived in small, mobile groups and relied on foraging, hunting, and fishing for survival. Today, Göbekli Tepe is a UNESCO World Heritage Site and continues to be a focus of archaeological research. The Sumerian civilization, flourishing between 5500 and 1900 BC in southern Mesopotamia, is widely regarded as one of the world's first urban societies. Nestled between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, Sumer was a collection of city-states that made significant contributions to human history. These contributions included little things such as the invention of writing, agriculture, and the establishment of legal codes, amongst others. The legacy of the Sumerians is profound, laying the groundwork for future civilizations in the region, and influencing every aspect of modern society. The Fertile Crescent of Mesopotamia provided the Sumerians with rich alluvial soil for agriculture, thanks to the silt deposited by the annual flooding of the twin rivers. This abundance allowed for surplus production, which in turn supported urban growth and the development of complex societies. Prominent city-states like Uruk, Ur, Lagash, and Eridu emerged, each functioning as independent political entities, but sharing a common language, culture, and religious beliefs. These city-states were often enclosed by walls and featured monumental architecture, including temples and palaces, symbolizing their wealth and power. One of the most remarkable achievements of the Sumerians was the development of cuneiform writing around 3200 BC. Initially created for record-keeping purposes, such as tracking agricultural produce and trade transactions, it evolved to a complex system of abstract symbols inscribed on clay tablets. This innovation not only facilitated administrative tasks, but also paved the way for literature, legal documents, and scholarly works. The Epic of Gilgamesh, written in Akkadian using Sumerian script, is one of the earliest known works of literary fiction, exploring themes of heroism and friendship. As could be expected, agriculture was the backbone of the Sumerian economy. They engineered an intricate system of irrigation canals and reservoirs to control the unpredictable flooding of the rivers and to distribute water to their fields. This system maximized agricultural productivity, supporting a growing population and enabling the specialization of labor. Crops such as barley, wheat, flax, and dates were cultivated, and surplus produce became a commodity for trade, laying the foundation for early trade networks in the region. The Sumerians are credited with the invention of the earliest wheel around 3500 BC, which revolutionized transport, pottery making, and warfare. They also developed metallurgy techniques, working with copper and bronze to create tools, weapons, and ornaments, marking the beginning of the Bronze Age in the region. Innovations like the plow and the sailboat further enhanced their agricultural efficiency and trade capabilities. Sumerian society was highly stratified, with a clear hierarchy that structured their social interactions and responsibilities. At the top were the ruling elites, including kings and priests, who wielded both political and religious power. The king was often seen as a mediator between the gods and the people, responsible for maintaining order and ensuring the prosperity of the city-state. Below the ruling class were the merchants, artisans, and scribes. Scribes held a prestigious position due to their literacy and role in administration and record-keeping. Artisans and craftsmen produced goods ranging from pottery to intricate jewelry to weaponry. Farmers and laborers formed the bulk of the population, working the lands and providing the necessary labor for construction projects. Bonded labor, often prisoners of war or debtors, occupied the lowest rung of society and were largely used for dangerous manual labor that free people would not engage in. In particular, their labor is thought to have been used extensively for activities such as mining. Each city-state was governed by its own set of laws and administrative systems. The Sumerians developed some of the earliest known legal codes, such as the Code of Ur-Nammu, dating back to around 2100 BC, which predated the famous Code of Hammurabi by several centuries. Unfortunately for King Ur-Nammu, it would seem that the early bird sometimes doesn't get the worm, but I digress. These laws covered various aspects of society, including property rights, marriage, and criminal justice, and were aimed at establishing justice and social order. Religion played a central role in Sumerian life, influencing their politics, culture, and daily activities. They were polytheistic, worshiping a pantheon of gods associated with natural forces and celestial bodies. Major deities included Anu, the sky god, Enlil, the god of air and storms, Enki, the god of water and wisdom, and Inanna, the goddess of love and war. Each city-state had a patron deity, and temples were specifically dedicated to their worship. Temples, or ziggurats, were monumental pyramid-like structures that served as religious and administrative centers. These terraced pyramid-like buildings dominated the city skyline and were believed to connect the heavens and the earth. Priests conducted rituals, offerings, and ceremonies to appease the gods, seeking their favor for prosperity, protection, and guidance. Sumerian society made significant military developments that shaped the early history of warfare. As one of the world's earliest civilizations, the Sumerians developed the first organized armies. The military forces of Sumer were composed mainly of infantry, who were equipped with weapons like spears, axes, and bows. One notable innovation was the use of the phalanx, a dense formation of soldiers armed with spears and shields, which allowed for coordinated and disciplined attacks. The Sumerians also employed the earliest known use of chariots in warfare, though these chariots were heavier and slower than later models adopted by other civilizations. Warfare in Sumer was closely tied to the city-states' rulers, who often led their armies into battle. Rulers were known for their unending military campaigns that expanded their city's influence and established dominance over rival city-states. Artistic expression flourished in Sumer, evident in their intricate sculptures, mosaics, and jewelry. They excelled in craftsmanship, producing items that showcased their skill and aesthetic sensibilities. Cylinder seals, carved with detailed scenes and inscriptions, were used to authenticate documents and secure containers, serving both practical and artistic purposes. Music and dance were integral parts of their culture, often associated with religious ceremonies and social gatherings. Instruments such as harps, lyres, and drums have been discovered in archaeological sites, indicating a strong musical tradition in Sumerian society. The Sumerian civilization laid the foundational elements for subsequent cultures in Mesopotamia and beyond. Their innovations in writing, law, technology, and urban planning influenced neighboring societies, including the Akkadians, Babylonians, and Assyrians. The concept of the city-state, codified laws, and administrative practices were adopted and adapted by these cultures to great effect. By around 1900 BC, the Sumerian city-states began to decline due to various factors such as internal strife, economic difficulties, and invasions by neighboring peoples. Notably, there is some evidence to indicate that Sumerians engaged in over-irrigation, which subsequently lowered crop yields and weakened their society. The Phoenicians were an ancient civilization that thrived along the eastern Mediterranean coast, primarily in present-day Lebanon from around 1500 BC to around 300 BC. Despite being overshadowed by neighboring empires, the Phoenicians left a significant mark on history through their advancements in navigation, trade, and the development of the alphabet. Emerging from a region with limited arable land, the Phoenicians turned to the sea as their gateway to prosperity. They became masterful shipbuilders and navigators, crafting sturdy vessels capable of withstanding long voyages across treacherous waters. Utilizing the North Star for navigation, they ventured beyond the traditional confines of the Mediterranean, possibly reaching as far as the British Isles in search of tin and other valuable resources. Also, of course, I have to briefly mention that there is a well-known theory that the Phoenicians were the first Old World peoples to discover the Americas. This theory is largely dismissed by scholars who observe that while it may have theoretically been possible with Phoenician technology, there's simply no good actual evidence for it. But anyway, I digress. Let's get back to established Phoenician history. Trade was the cornerstone of Phoenician society and what allowed this comparatively tiny society to punch far above its weight. They established an extensive network of trade routes that connected various civilizations, including the Egyptians, Greeks, and Mesopotamians. The Phoenicians traded goods such as cedar wood, prized for its quality and durability, which was used in constructing palaces and temples, including Solomon's Temple in Jerusalem. They were also renowned for their production of glass and luxury items adorned with intricate designs, reflecting a high level of craftsmanship. One of their most lucrative industries was the production of Tyrian purple dye. Extracted from the murex sea snail found along the Levantine coast, the dye produced a rich purple hue that became synonymous with royalty and power. The complex and labor-intensive extraction process made the dye extremely valuable, and garments colored with Tyrian purple were coveted by elites across the ancient world. The Phoenicians were not just traders, but also quite famously colonizers as well. To support and expand their trade networks, they established colonies and settlements throughout the Mediterranean, the most notable being Carthage in North Africa around 800 BC. Carthage grew to become a powerful city-state in its own right, with its own colonies, especially in Iberia, and eventually challenging Rome for dominance in the Western Mediterranean during the Punic Wars. These colonies served as vital hubs for commerce, resource acquisition, and cultural exchange, spreading Phoenician influence far beyond their homeland. A monumental contribution of the Phoenicians was the development of the alphabet. Prior writing systems, such as Egyptian hieroglyphs and Mesopotamian cuneiform, were complex and required extensive learning. These systems required a highly educated class of scribes and bureaucrats, and even modest degrees of literacy were uncommon even amongst other elites. The Phoenician alphabet, consisting of 22 consonant letters, was a revolutionary simplification. This phonetic system allowed for more straightforward writing and reading, making literacy accessible to a broader segment of the population. The Greeks adopted and adapted this alphabet by adding vowels, which then influenced the Latin script, and consequently our present alphabet. Simply put, the Phoenician alphabet laid the foundation for written communication in the Western world. Culturally, the Phoenicians were adept at assimilating and merging influences from the civilizations they interacted with. Their art and religious practices reflected a syncretism of Egyptian, Mesopotamian, and local Canaanite traditions. They worshipped a pantheon of gods, with Baal and Astarte being prominent deities. Religious rituals often involved offerings and ceremonies intended to secure the favor of the gods for safe voyages and prosperous trade. And as you may imagine, being a seafaring people, the Phoenicians were more concerned with currying divine favor than most groups. Despite their significant contributions, the Phoenicians did not form a unified nation-state. Instead, they were organized into independent city-states such as Tyre, Sidon, and Byblos, each governed by its own king and ruling elite. This political fragmentation made them vulnerable to conquest by emerging powers like the Assyrians, Babylonians, and Persians, who sought control over the lucrative trade routes. However, even under foreign domination, the Phoenicians continued their commercial activities, often serving as intermediaries between empires. Despite their innovations in writing, the scarcity of written records from the Phoenicians themselves has posed challenges for historians. Much of what is known comes from archaeological findings and accounts by other ancient cultures, notably the Greeks and Romans, who sometimes viewed them with a mix of admiration and suspicion. The decline of the Phoenicians began with the rise of powerful empires and the shifting political landscape. The conquest of their cities by Alexander the Great in the 4th century BC marked the end of Phoenician autonomy and the beginning of the Hellenization of their culture. Remember to like, subscribe, and share this video if you enjoyed it. Check out my main channel, Lazy Chill Zone, where I discuss unsolved mysteries, conspiracies, urban legends, true crime, and the occult. The link is in the comments below.